Barris will be joining us shortly, but in the room, I'll just run through. It's Gwen, Tanza, Stan Noga, David Jones, Mark Bills, Guy Tanza, myself, currently in the room. First item up after calling the meeting to order are the changes to the agenda. I'd like to make a recommendation that we move from old business item 5C about the lease till after item 10, right before we adjourn, so that executive session.
What's that wire, Bruce?
Will be
Thanks.
very, very
No, I just,
Okay, I'd also like to make mention that during my select board chair report, I'll probably be discussing a couple of items that came in the mail for communication, so that might be a little bit out of sequence as well, but nothing tragic. And anybody else have any changes to the agenda that they'd like to see made? Okay. So we'll move on to reviewing and approving the minutes. I'd like to take a look. We'll go through the minutes of Wednesday, November 17th. Anybody have any changes to page 1? Okay. Anybody have any changes to page 2?
I don't know what, I'm sorry, what I said.
Yes, sir.
Just an inquiry, under wheeled excavator purchase discussion, third line, paragraph 2. I'm sorry, second line, paragraph 2. Was that truly intended to be January 1 of 2021 or January 1 of 2022?
It actually, my item, I see I have it circled too. It's supposed to be January 11th of 2022.
Okay,
That's when the, right, that's when FEMA
okay.
thing goes. So that's January 11th, 2022. Anything else on page 2?
I got something on the school building, wherever that is.
Next. Okay. All right, page 3. Before we get to school building, I have something under the webinars. The second sentence. It says November 30th on developing highway budgets. It's actually December 7th. The webinar's on December 7th, developing highway budgets. And then Bruce, you have something under school buildings?
Arrangement, non-agreement after completing the service arrangement. Not agreement,
That's after completing the code of service arrangement.
yeah, not agreement.
All right, so Peter, when you look at this, it's under school building, it's the last word of the first sentence should be arrangement, not agreement. Okay, page 4. Any changes? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from Wednesday, November 17th as amended. May I have a second? Seconded by Bruce. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the amended November 17th minutes, signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, very good. Now we'll go on to the emergency minutes from the meeting on November 23rd, 2021. Anybody have any items on page 1 of 2 that they see it needs to be amended in any way?
I think the only thing would be to just change the word special where it appears to emergency, because it was actually an emergency meeting. Because we didn't warn it more than 24 hours in advance. So it has to be an emergency meeting. So like if the header says emergency and then the first sentence in item 4 and then
First sentence.
the first sentence in item 9, I think, or the only sentence change to emergency.
All right, so where it says special, change to emergency.
Yeah.
Anything on page 2 that needs to be modified or? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the emergency meeting on transportation alternative V-Trans grant application from Tuesday, November 23rd. What am I doing? I'm making a motion, see, making a motion to approve the minutes
Yeah,
as amended for the
I'll
emergency
second that.
meeting, seconded by David. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And one abstention for myself, I wasn't here. Thank you very much. Okay, there are no members to the public at this time, so we will move into review and discuss and finalize the road supervisor's job description, the attachment. Mark, I gave you one yesterday.
Yes, and I left it.
Okay, did you get a chance to look at it though?
I didn't know.
All right, I'll give you my copy here for now. Anybody have anything they would like to, I thought it was well done. I thought it was thorough and, not too binding, but of course not too loose as well.
I guess the only question I'd have is, do we want to approve it before Mark has really had a chance to read it through? Do we want potentially
I can table this,
feedback from Mark?
I can
before we
table
approve
this for later on in the meeting when we get to your section,
Sure,
so you have a
yeah.
chance to look it over.
Right?
Okay.
Good.
So we're gonna table this at this time and we'll look at it. Don't let me forget David later on. Okay. Next item, appropriation requests. Okay, I sent out to you the updated appropriation requests, and there happens to be another one that came in the mail. Since this is a new appropriations request. The Southeastern Vermont Watershed Alliance has written to the select board that says, as you face the challenge of budgeting process, we respectfully request your continued support of our modest request of $130. The support of area communities, donors, and partners allow us to sample local waterways to identify problems should they exist and to make available to river users reports on the safety of their favorite recreational spots. Our efforts benefit all residents directly or indirectly. Healthy, clean water enhances the quality of life for everyone. Thank you for consideration of this request. Christine White, President.
All right, what was the name? Southeastern?
Southeastern Vermont Watershed Alliance. They're saying continued request.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was Gloria Castolio that was head of that
Yeah.
before.
Who?
Gloria, the former,
Gloria Castelli?
yeah, from
so
Newfane.
I already had that as something that we had gotten a request for.
Yeah, we have.
But it was for the same amount as last year, which was $110.
This is Southeastern Vermont.
On your list, there's a West River Watershed Alliance, but the initials are SEVWA, which
All
I
right, so
think
this was
is
probably
actually.
in the folder that Judy had put together of all of them, which I don't have right now. It was listed as the West River Watershed Alliance, SEVWA. But it seems like it's the same one. This asked for 130 and the other one asked for 110, so I'm not sure.
Can I go grab the folder? Is it in the usual place?
Yeah, I mean, I messed up my picture.
So there's the West River watershed and the Southeast Vermont watershed.
Wow, those two different,
I don't
yeah.
actually. I only see the last 2 years, not this.
Last year was support of Southeastern Watershed Alliance. That was for $110.
Right, no, I just mean, I don't know where the folder for the new appropriations are.
Do you have a folder at home?
No, I brought it back last time we talked about it, left it
He
here.
said he couldn't find it. Maybe she was working on it too, so.
Sorry, I'm just looking through the whole file.
That's okay. Gives Mark a chance to read it over. Yeah, this one was dated November 22nd and received November 24th. But we did get the West River Watershed Alliance earlier. Sounds like they sent two.
Because after the first alliance, the Southeastern Vermont Watershed Alliance must be what those initials are.
Yes,
So is Judy saying, did Judy put this list together? or did you-
I typed this list up from the folder.
I see.
I mean, I may have used the wrong,
Those two folders.
I don't remember this diet picture. It's all stationary.
Yeah, these,
Guess what? Appropriation
I know
Request
this
this one. It was confused by the man in the basement, this one.
well, but I'm assuming that this is fiscal.
Ooh.
Like that said battery charging, I'm like, why? And I was like, waited for a while. And I went down.
Yeah, these are all,
Push the red
yeah,
button.
this is the payment stuff, because it's got the OP warrants. So I'm assuming that this
I
is.
take
No other
that. Urinary tract infection, $385.
Well,
Even show, I have no.
Yeah, I mean, I just try to find one.
Oh, it says West River Watershed Alliance, Nile Southeast Watershed Alliance.
See,
But the only folders that I see in the appropriations section are,
West River went from West River Watershed Alliance is now the Southeastern Watershed Alliance.
oh, okay, so there's different
So there's the
stationery
two
and they're asking for
things?
more money.
Well,
Yeah, they're one, it says, the West River Watershed Alliance is now the Southeastern Watershed Alliance. So,
Okay.
What is that?
which I think that happened a while ago. But I guess the bigger question is, did we get two requests from them? One for
$110,
$110, like we talked about at our last meeting, and now a second one
Yes,
for
the second
$110.
one with the new station.
But unfortunately, I can't find in the files there the remainder of the letters. The whole file for this year, I don't see in there anywhere.
All right, I brought it back. and left it.
Do you know where you left it? Just in like one of
And
their
then by
inboxes?
Judy's, by the treasurer. Let me just look there real quick. This is it. I have it. It's here. We put it here to file.
See, I don't file anything except for the.
Okay.
I
found it.
Select board stuff,
Okay, cool. All right.
you had it.
something that
It
she
was
does.
Okay, real quick, let me find it. Right. All right, we did get, as you see on my list, the other people I did contact, and they all came through with a letter, including Valley Cares. Okay, they asked for, in September, they sent us a letter for $110.
And that's actually a request letter and not
It
a,
is that time of year again when Sevka asked for the disbursement of the allocated funds. Oh, this is a disbursement of the allocated
Yeah,
funds.
that's,
that's not the same.
they're asking for the
That's not
check.
same. All right, so this is what came at that time, and I misread or did not recognize that that was the issue. So now we'll change it to the Southeastern Vermont Watershed Alliance, and they are now asking for $130. Okay? So,
So this 110 should be crossed off?
correct.
Yep.
So it's $130, which is another $20 up.
See that thing down.
See what this? All right, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's see, we have here, again, more for your library, asking $400 more, Senior Solutions, $50 more, and the Watershed Alliance, $20 more, for a total of $970 of new appropriations request, for a total of $9,866. So from what we talked about last week, the new request from the gathering place needs to go as a separate article. Increases, are they to go as a separate article, or how?
they haven't historically been done as separate articles. I mean,
So Southeast
Granted,
Watershed, Southeast
typically
Watershed
things
is
don't
120,
change, but more. free
130 for
libraries-
Southeast Watershed, I'm sorry, I missed that, excuse me.
More free libraries increases every year, has always increased, and some of the other ones have
By the
increased it
shot.
by, usually not by that amount, but they do increase. And since I've been on the board, we've never warned any of those as separate articles.
Only.
But remember, we also typically display them in the town report and the warning, showing what was given last year
Right.
and what was given this year.
So
We're not
So
doing
it's
that?
clear to people where there were
Those-
increases.
Will we do that this year?
I mean, I assume we would.
Well, it depends on.
I assume if we warn them as one article, like we have when we have a town meeting,
Right,
we would warn them all that way, that we would have a table like we've always had in
With
the
the
town
the
report.
binder?
but if it's so
That
strange.
shows last year
You're
and
not
this year.
gonna know unless they've done looking, if they've been looking at it. Cause you're just gonna ask to vote on that specific article for that price, they wouldn't know if it's $50 or 5,000 that we did last year. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
You know, if it's Australian dollars.
right, I mean, I guess I'll say, not that we wanna get too deep in the woods on this, but if it were to be an Australian ballot, we have to have an informational meeting, like we did last year. Granted, 2 people attended the informational meeting last year, Don being one of them. So, and during the informational meeting, we literally read through all of the articles, and we then explained this was an increase from last year, blah, blah, blah. So I mean,
We got our bases covered.
there's an effort to let people know what the increases are. But you're right, if it's a ballot, literally the article itself probably wouldn't say that.
Right, but that's their fault.
I'm full, but
Well,
Guy, you wanted to?
Just a quick question,
Sure.
does the select board have the authority or the pleasure of adjusting the amounts that are being asked at the select board meeting before they submit it to the town as a budget item?
I
It
believe
was my
it's-
understanding that if the select board didn't want to increase or wanted to change anything, it was their pleasure, they could do that. And I'm just, I guess my concern is that we're approaching $9,000. We just got a big bump from the Southwestern dues for the fire department. We have another thing that's going on, insurance has gone up considerably. I'm just wondering, you know.
To answer your question, the answer is yes, you can, the select board can
Change the amount.
change the amounts, not include them.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That's all.
You know,
Yeah, this is relatively.
I will only offer one piece of information, and because I did offer this same piece of information last year when we discussed this. Granted, we were warning everything separately for Australian ballot, so there's a lot of things that were different. But I will just say for informational purposes, since I have been on the board for recurring appropriations, we have not changed the amount that someone asked for. We have always put that forward.
Because it's been.
We
approved
did,
every
we
year
have.
for so long.
We have sometimes not put forward new appropriation requests,
That's
like
true.
we did for many years with sevens.
Right.
But I'm not aware of us having changed an amount that an organization requested before presenting it to the voters. And for what it's worth, I will say as an aside, the Newfane Select Board did that very thing several years ago, and there was a big situation at their town meeting because of it,
Changing it.
changing it. So, you know,
Okay.
I personally am in favor of being transparent and giving the information to the voters and letting the voters decide on recurring, on organizations that the voters have voted previously
Yeah.
to support.
So you wanna tell them,
Personally.
Free Public Library went up $400, da. Give them the choice, it's their town, you know, okay. And this is.
I mean, this is an unusual situation, I agree, it's not something
Yeah.
we've really had to encounter, so it's,
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, I'm just saying that's my opinion of what makes the most sense, but
And
that's.
also they gotta,
Doesn't mean
they'll be
everybody
understanding,
agrees with that.
we're going over this. Is where the entire budget is compared to last year. So if the budget went up $50,000, they might be more inclined to do some cost cutting.
It's almost $10,000, yes.
That's a lot of money.
well, at the annual meeting, if someone, when they ask to vote on this article, someone may stand up and say, I wish to, you know, make an adjustment on such and such
But
item.
I don't remember, me, you can refresh my memory, I've read 30 million of them. But the town report's made up with, is the budget approval after all the appropriations? I think so, isn't it?
It has to be approved after the,
It's after it, isn't it?
no, I think
The
the.
$209,000.
We usually do the budget first. and
Yeah.
then the appropriation.
That's what it's
That's,
for.
yeah.
So that means, okay, so they know, good, so they know upfront, how much is increased, and it's with that
Yeah, it's
appropriation
listed
amount.
in there.
I mean, the other thing I'll say is that I know we're saying that this is almost $10,000. But let's not forget, last year was almost $9,000. And there's a new request for $500. So, you know, the existing requests,
Well, in the last 3 years, we've gone up
Or
almost
not.
$4,000.
Yeah, we used to be in the sixes.
Six,
right, but remember, that's also in part because the voters approved
Yeah,
a $1,600 appropriation that didn't exist prior to that.
Yep.
I mean,
and it'd
it's-
be really interesting to see if during a live town meeting, whether they would
My
keep to
question
that
on that new
appropriations.
request,
that
is
way.
One at
that,
a time, please.
on the new request for the gathering, that's put in as a line
new
item,
article?
right? A new article, because
Yes,
it's new.
that's a separate article.
I'm sorry, Bruce.
That's all right. I'll get over it. More over.
All right, so what's the pleasure of the select board at this time with this form? I mean, it will be retyped and provided to Nathan, I guess, for including into the.
As long as it's explained to the public, to the town, that we're getting the increases. fine, you wanna increase it $20,000, fine. I just want the town to know that that's what's there.
So let me just say, I mean, just
Oh,
to
yeah.
refresh people's memory, so
Okay.
2 years ago, when we had a normal town meeting, and let's assume for the moment, we're gonna have a normal town meeting. I don't know. If we do have a normal town meeting, the way the town report, the way we warn the article, so the whole article that we warn includes, or the town warning includes all these different, this is actually last year's. We include, actually, even last year we did, even though we were voting them separately, we did provide the breakdown. We show a chart that shows the organization, what was approved by the voters previously and what has been requested this year. And that's the article that gets voted on. And again, it has not happened very often, but there's the opportunity for people at town meeting to ask questions or to amend this to reduce the amount of time. I mean, that has happened. It hasn't happened in a while, but it could happen.
But as opposed to Australian ballot, which everything is voted on individually.
Right.
All right, so what is the pleasure of the board? We are looking at 22 reoccurring I won't say reoccurring, but appropriation requests that occurred previously and one new request from the gathering place for $500, which would be listed as a separate article. So we're looking at putting it in the town report with a last year and the upcoming year request, so just 2 columns so they can compare and contrast.
So the other thing I'll say is that obviously, again, assuming that we have a town meeting, when the motion is made, I think typically what the moderator will do is read the article and bring it open for discussion, and he will first throw it to the select board to say, is there anything you want to clarify about it?
That's true.
And so it's entirely open. With it, we can say just a couple things to point out. The More Free Library request went up by $400 from $300 to $700. The Senior Solutions went up by X or whatever. We could call out the ones that went up, so it's very clear to the people who will be there voting, who are
Right.
the only people who are going to decide at that point how it's transpired. You know, in addition to there being a chart, we can make it clear to the people that are there.
Exactly.
With the slide, yeah.
All right, so do I make a motion to edit the changes of the name of the West River Watershed Alliance to its current name and its amount from 110 to 130. Change that and then the new requests and provide.
I will say historically, we haven't really gotten into having a lot of votes about this specific thing if we all are at a consensus, because the reality is the detail of this is going to be in the article that we will vote in January. So we can vote on it, but we haven't
We don't,
usually
so we're just
because.
looking at, this is
And
okay
we're-
that we're putting it in
And
this
if
way.
we're all agreed on the principle of it, then I don't know that we really need to worry about voting a lot of
Excellent, good.
detail of this now. Because we're gonna read it all at a meeting in January that's gonna have all of this same detail and the way we're gonna present it. And that's when we'll vote yes or no on it. But does everybody, but I guess I would like to know, is everyone okay with the idea that we're going to put forward all of these requests as they were made? Because we don't have to do that, like we said. We have the power to change these if we want to. I think it's a bad idea, but that's just my
No,
opinion.
No, I think that the town's gotta make the decision. We gotta be transparent. We gotta tell them, look, your budget's just going up $40,000 and this is a part of it. Be clear. They'll tell you what they want for sure. Especially nowadays with inflation and everything going up. So they're talking $5 a gallon for gas by 2023.
Well, and remember, the thing is, because appropriations are warned separately as a
Yes.
separate article, they don't really show up as part of the budget increase, strictly speaking,
Oh, it's not.
until that has been voted.
Right.
That's right.
So
So
Yeah,
it's separate,
tied to it.
it's separate.
So-
Well, we can explain that to you.
You know, it's a separate increase, but it's an increase nonetheless, but it's a bit different and voted differently, obviously, than the rest of the budget, which we completely control and completely present.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I was selfish, I'd say, do it my way, you know, just do it, make the changes on this, make the changes on that, but it's really not the spirit of what we should.
All right, so am I hearing that I will retype this and with the little edits on it and put it in the town meeting booklet.
And the gathering place, they were requesting what?
I've marked it up.
That gathering place is a new request.
Oh, okay,
Right. And yes,
so that would be a new article.
correct. Okay, so we shall move on from there. Mark, since you took a few minutes to look, you're okay, we're gonna go back to the job description. All right, everybody had a chance to read through the job description that was emailed out for the town of Brookline Road Supervisor. And does anybody have anything that they would like to see modified, edited, or is this something that I can sign this evening and put into effect?
Thanks for redoing that, David, taking
Sure, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I think if I missed anything, it's just like some stray little formatting thing. It's nothing of substance, I don't think.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion that we adopt the road supervisor job description as presented. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving and adopting the town of Brookline's road supervisor job description as presented signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. I will sign this now. Adopted December, can't believe it's December.
And I just want to say again, thank you, Stan and Dot, for having pulled this together and said, this is good, this is really good. I think it puts us in a much, like we talked about, it puts us in a much better situation in the future, in 50 years when Mark retires.
Gotcha there, Mark.
The age of 95.
With the gold wheel down.
Okay, all right, next item then, since we went back through here, is municipal budget items that, our town clerk got for us. A couple of items that he researched, that I thought we could fill in tonight. God, do you have that information?
I'm sorry, these pages aren't numbered, so underneath. General fund. For the Windham Regional Commission dues, we have listed it as $1,400. It's 1301.
All right, let me find it, you don't know what page that's on.
I'm going by 1, 2, 3.
On the second page.
I have it on the third page of mine.
What did you say, Guy? 13?
Wyndham Regional is 1301.
1301. So just to be clear on things, I mean, I mentioned this before. I have been updating the spreadsheet version of what Samara created originally for this. And after tonight, I will plug in all of the appropriations ones and all of the ones we're talking about and throw in some calculations so that for our next meeting, we'll have an updated version that'll show us how much we've increased or decreased
Thank you,
things.
thank you.
So that was the
Nice.
At
dues.
least that's my objective.
Yeah, Wyndham Regional
Those
dues.
that I see?
Yeah, you had it 1400, 1301.
Okay,
And we
Just that way there'll be less potential confusion because it's confusing already.
All right, so Guy, you did the Windham Regional dues is $1,301.
Correct.
Was there another one that you
The
saw?
insurance, our total insurance package is gonna be $93.40, but I have it broken down with, without the workman's comp. $93.40. So 93.40 is our total insurance. That includes the liability and also workman's comp.
Do we have a separate line item for workman's comp? No.
I don't know
I don't
if we
think so.
do. But the total, because I'm looking at insurance and bonds on here, and you're showing just $5,000, I think.
Right, and the thing is that, and we talked about this before, that historically, we've broken out highway, though we pay one amount, we've estimated part of it as a highway cost.
I have
in
those
the
exact
highway
figures.
fund, which has usually been $4,000 is what we budgeted. And we've budgeted the remainder of it
Yeah.
in the Fund One.
All
So
right,
we
now-
just split it between the two funds.
All right, the highway is 3904, I'm sorry, the town is 3904, the highway is 5239.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
And then for the rental property, it's 1904. Or 1804.
Oh, okay.
1804?
Okay. So wait, so highway. 1804.
Okay.
So
So
wait,
the highway is 5239.
Yeah.
Town is 3904,
and the
and the rental is the, the school,
school is,
1804.
so.
This was for the insurance, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
the total package is 93, what did I say, 93?
9340.
Yep.
Am I observant enough to,
And this year they'll be taking that in quarterly payments versus a 2 payments, so. But anyway, that's
that
not
didn't
it,
go
it's
up, did it?
9340.
Guy?
Wait, how much is it
That
again?
didn't-
9340.
that didn't go up, did it?
Yes, it did. It went up $1,684.
Not.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Yeah,
So can I just say that, maybe I'm doing something wrong, but these
Okay.
numbers don't add up to 9340, they add up to 10,000 something.
Okay, and they do add up to that, but there is a one-time credit.
Oh.
Which I'll explain. There's a one-time credit of $401.75 a quarter. You times that by 4. And deduct that from the 10,949.
It's 9340.
401.75 times 4.
So that's 1607 credit.
And you take that from the 10,904, and it should come out to 93.40,
10,947.
or $1 or $2 difference.
9340, okay. So,
And that credit is just this one-time, 1-year credit. But that's our total liability, 93.40, with the credits. As you can see, there's a,
yeah, okay, so I guess. Okay, so that's a one-time credit for
this year for 2022.
2022-23, for the year that we are budgeting.
Right, it's gonna be 93.40. And that includes the credits.
Okay.
What prompted the credits, just out of curiosity?
I'm sorry.
What prompted the credits to develop?
It was something, and I'll let you read it rather than. It says it right there, the credits are less contribution credit for fund years and less a one-time credit member equity from fund years. They have a way, because it's owned by the the towns, they have a way of funding it and figuring out what it cost them and what it did
Thank you.
based on actuaries and.
Ah,
I think, we okay with that one?
Well, I guess I don't know what we're, then
Okay, well, in the insurance.
how are we breaking it out? Again, I'll say historically, I mean, or do we want to lump all of the school portion of it, let's say, into the general fund line item, which would make that line 5708, and then know that we're gonna put in the highway fund budget 5239, which is gonna increase the highway budget 5,000, whatever.
Oh, so actually taking the
Breaking it out.
the three items, the town, the highway, and the other building, and then charging it off to those buildings. I think that would work.
Sorry, that's not what I was,
Oh.
that's not what I was suggesting, actually. I guess what I'm saying is we now know from Guy, in the past, what we've budgeted each year has just been a estimate. It looks like we've basically, for the past several years, what we've budgeted, again, we have two funds. We have a general fund and a highway fund. In the general fund, we've budgeted $5,500 for insurance. And then in the highway fund, we've budgeted $4,000 for insurance, which is a little bit more than what it's actually going to cost us. But we're now finding out that perhaps the way it breaks down is actually different than how we've been budgeting.
Yeah, the highway is
So
5239.
we can adjust our budget to try to be more accurate to represent this
Excellent, yeah.
if we want,
okay.
understanding that it's going to make for an increase in the highway budget, but a decrease in the Fund One budget. And also keeping in mind, this is a one-time credit, so in theory,
Yeah,
next
every
year
year's,
it's gonna be $1,600 more, maybe.
Right.
I mean, it seems to me we should, if we can be accurate, if we can be more accurate, why not be more accurate?
Absolutely.
well, I think one of
The
the.
net result is the same amount of money, is the accurate amount of money. In fact, it's less than what we've been budgeted. It's just distributed more correctly. So why not do that?
I would concur with that idea. How do you feel, Bruce? Stan? Ben?
Does that make
Okay.
sense?
All
Okay.
right, so that makes,
So then that means we're gonna budget in the line item for Fund One. We're gonna budget, oh, actually, no, I guess it does go up. Even this one.
Yeah, the town is gonna be 3904 plus
Right, so it's gonna be
1804.
5708. Rather than 5,500.
all right, so 5708 for the town and 5,239.
No, that's, sorry. Then the further problem is we have this credit. So how do we apportion the credit?
The figures I gave you include the credits. The highway is 5239, the town is 3904.
But then the school is 1804.
1804 for the school.
Right,
So
but
if you added.
that doesn't include the credits.
Oh, okay.
That's without the credits removed. So,
17.
I mean, I'm just gonna throw out there that between the 57 and the 52,
Split it
it's
down the
close
middle.
enough to 50 for me. Let's just split it down the middle.
Yeah,
So we'll credit
800.
804 to one of them and.
I guess the one I was interested in was
804
the
and
school,
803.
because you were looking for an exact figure for what the school is actually costing the town.
All right. So 800 and, $804, all right,
Okay, so I'm gonna explain what I think is right.
all right.
And maybe we can, so I believe what we end up doing is, before the credit, we were going to make Fund One 5708. I'm now going to reduce that by $804 for the credit. for that portion of the credit, bringing it down to 4904. And then the highway was going to be 5239, but we're going to reduce that by $803. And we're going to then make that 4436.
Does that come to 9340?
Yes, it
Yes, it
does.
does.
Okay.
Does that make sense to everyone? And does that seem
Very thoughtful.
fair enough? I'm gonna enter in my spreadsheet the highway one right now before I forget what that number is. Even though I know we're not strictly speaking talking about the highway. But,
Let me just swear that on. What the hell was that?
Could I bring up, I got an email today from Gary LaWardna that says the mutual aid dispatch dues for Newbrook for the town of Brookline. And he gave me a figure and I said, are we gonna get it, is this how we get our invoice? Which is an email from Gary, and he said, well, you could check on getting us a copy of the invoice. But he said the Brookline mutual aid dispatch dues will be $10,729. Last year it was
467.
It's $10,729 this year.
yeah, I mean, we don't, that we got invoiced by them, we don't. Gary provides us with this usually because he knows we're trying to figure out the budget. And when he gets the information, he sends it to us so that we have it to work with.
Right.
But that's, we're not.
Can you tell me again what the insurance was for the town, what you decided on? I'm sorry,
It
Gary.
was,
Bruce's job.
4904.
4904 for the town,
Correct.
4904 net.
and the town, and the highway
It
was
was 4436.
36.
Okay, so 10,729 is the rate.
Anything else, Guy, that you had looked up?
no, I think we had I'm still waiting to hear from Cy Bailey in regards to how many hours he thinks is necessary to run our department efficiently. And that's gonna be in payroll when you guys do pay stuff, which you're not attempting to do at all tonight. The other thing is that we still have the two, which I think we already had, which was the Apex, the sketching, and the, hold on, I've got my notes here somewhere.
The technology.
Yep. Anyway, the Swift and Marshall rather, is included, is included in the NEMRIC dues that we paid, which was $6,000. And I think you also included the cloud, which was $840. So the numbers that you had in there are pretty solid. The only thing we're waiting for is the actual number for the salary in regards to the listers.
Okay.
I'll also just note that, we still have to discuss and come up with what we're going to budget for treasurer and assistant treasurer.
Correct, and I have that for our meeting, I'm thinking on the 15th. Yeah, on the 15th, budget salary discussions and such.
Can I suggest we also discuss probably the only other not that it's a budgeted item strictly speaking, but that we also discuss recycling.
Oh, I saw on my notes today to talk to Dan, and I just saw him the other night, and I didn't ask him if he had heard anything from Windham Regional, but that's on here,
Yeah, we still don't have a budget.
Yeah.
Right. For the-
so I will, I'll put it on here. Contact him to see if he knows anything. Okay. All right. I guess that brings us up to date pretty much at this point. Moving on to, anything else before we move on to, because we've moved the executive session to the end. So I guess we're at the point where we can do town clerk report.
Town clerk, obviously the town is still busy, although I can see a downtrend in the conveyances and so forth that's starting to peter out now, and I think there's not really much left in Brookline. We probably turned over 10% of the town. What's going on now is refinancing and some trust and so forth, but it's getting down to a normal pace. Other than that, things are good. We're working with FEMA and Dot and Mark and I. So things are pretty much normal. We're looking forward to the legislative body meeting the first week in January. And it's gonna be an important meeting because at that meeting, they're gonna toy with this idea of what to do with the annual town meeting. It's still up in the air. There is a remote possibility that they may pass a legislative giving the select boards the authority to, in fact, have it as a Australian ballot or go back to its regular way, which is where we are right now. The emergency ends December 31st. So whatever happens in this legislative session will dictate what we're gonna be doing in March. But time is of the essence, and like the last thing with the COVID virus, it's everything comes all at once in one compact thing, and it makes for some stressful times for a lot of folks. But we'll figure it out, and we've got through this before, we'll get through it again. Gwen is still doing the digitizing of the land records. That's moving, at its pace. It's a slow pace, but we're doing it and saving the town some money. Other than that, everything's pretty much normal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do want to make note that our town meeting would be on Monday, February 28th.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on to my select
In the
board.
evening, right?
Yes. Select board chair report. I have a couple of things to share, and I did say that I'll be talking about a couple of pieces of mail that came in. The Office of the Governor has did an emergency session, special session, and there is now the ability, if there is a request from the governing body to initiate a mask mandate beginning Monday, November 29th. If the town of Brookline would like to do that, if anybody can bring it up and ask to be added to an agenda item between now and in April, I believe it is. So, end of April. They can-
Okay,
6
nothing
months,
to do with
whatever.
town meeting, just,
Nothing to, just the fact that
Here.
they, yes, here in the town and in here,
oh, it wants to come in, okay.
okay? Okay, another item that came in the mail, I think I'll bring this up first. We got a thank you letter from the town of Townsend on behalf of the Townsend Select Board. When I say that your letter of support and solidarity is much appreciated. I value the occasions that neighboring towns can stand in unity to make our community stronger. And that was in response to a notice that the letter we sent about the Nazi flag. So I'm actually gonna staple my email communications and a copy of the letter and what came about to this, and then it will be placed in a folder.
Correspondence file.
Yeah.
File. Okay, so that will be there for anybody else. Okay, I don't know if anybody signed up for the webinars. Well, anyway, what's it called, Knowledge Wave has a lot of new webinars that they have posted for the month, I'll just pass it around, the month of December, if anybody wants to sign up, they are free, we've already taken care of that. Another item that it came to my desk on November 26th, from the Assistant Treasurer Judy, and it's about the old community group fund. It says this fund has been inactive and Samara has tried to eliminate it from the accounting system, but it is prevented from doing so because there was a positive account balance of $2,069.25. So Nemrick suggested to Judy that the town like to transfer this balance to another fund where it can be used, allowing this fund number 6 to be deleted. So I will bring this up at another time, but it did come this week, that this $2,069.25 could be put somewhere else at another time. Okay,
So we think that's something that has to be voted at a town meeting.
it's not a restricted fund, it was fundraising that was done, and that was done to do like the Easter egg hunt or things of that sort, or when the meeting house had
We used to give out
Halloween,
scholarships.
Yes,
They used to have parties, you know,
Yeah.
kids' parties, Easter parties, Easter egg hunt.
right.
Pretty much, yeah, Archie and Lori were, and Joyce Meal, I think, were the original people that started that.
So again, that is an amount that we could probably look to better use at another point, so I just wanted to bring that to your attention at this time. And I also have a very nice letter another nice letter to read to you. Okay, it's a little long, but it's worth it. It says, "Dear Leanne, this letter will confirm my offer and my commitment to provide a donation of up to $10,000 at any time between now and July 30th, 2022 for the restoration and upkeep of the Brookline Meeting House. These funds, to be used as you and the committee determine most appropriate, will be placed in my Schwab donor advised fund before the year end 2021, earmarked for distribution to the Brookline Meeting House via check specified to be donations to the Brookline Meeting House and made out to the town of Brookline, Vermont. These funds may be tapped by you all at once or incrementally, yes, in installments of no less than $2,000 each upon requests made to me by you on behalf of the committee. Please do your best to give a decent amount of notice before the funds are actually needed, as it can take Schwab as much as a week or two to process a check from that fund to a federally tax exempt nonprofit. I very much appreciate the work you put into the care you and the other committee members have taken over the last several years to restore, care for, and keep up the meeting house for its use by the citizens and the towns and guests. I am sure my direct ancestors and those other hardworking farmers and tradespeople who contributed not only their savings, but their honest sweat equity, as finances type prefer to jargonize the physical work these days, to build this house of worship. Would love to know that 185 years later, we still honor what they did and revere the purpose for which they labored. In the end, we know they actually inadvertently risked their lives to erect their church and experienced it as a miracle when they were saved from death after the scaffolding they were working on collapsed. Let's do our best to contribute another small miracle or two to their memory, so that in years to come, all the fine people of Brookline will still be able to gather under the roof they've raised and ring out that bell in celebration whenever the spirit moves them to do so. I am honored to be able to contribute to this endeavor. Sincerely, Howard Cutler. P.S. In preparation for another small miracle, once the work already committed to has been carried out, what say we in getting an estimate to replace that carpet with something softer, warmer, and more welcoming, and possibly of a solid color? The carpet on the podium.
Oh, that's the guy that came into
Yes,
our
And
office
then we had to relook.
last year, and I spent hours digging up
Trying to find out.
his aunt, and we sent him a scan and we showed him everything else, and he
he's
just
very-
evaporated.
He's very thankful. He said he's giving us $10,000.
Yeah.
And for work that you've done last year, and then
Well,
again
it's-
this year, Leanne
yeah.
took him
It's
around,
wonderful.
and he is a descendant of.
So it paid off.
Incredibly generous.
Yeah, real nice guy.
And I think the only thing we found was in the 1700s in a,
No, I emailed him, we texted him
Yeah.
a couple of deeds.
yeah, and the one in
And-
the little
Yep.
index card that
Yep,
has.
he lived in California.
That's a lot of money.
And he
Wow.
was in Washington State,
Oh, okay,
yeah, Washington.
somewhere,
He's in
somewhere in
Washington
what
State.
Yes, he came by.
Yeah,
Oh, he told me that.
Where was the Cutler property
Yeah.
in Brookline?
I'm sorry?
I asked Guy what property, Cutler property existed in Brookline.
No, it was with his family, and I don't know where it was, but one of the original people, I'd have to go back and look. But he was looking for some deeds and with his father's name or someone, his father removed.
Willens or Wood.
Yeah, and we tracked back and we finally found it. And I made copies of it and texted to him, and we just heard from him again.
Well, he was making plans to come back in
Yeah.
person to visit again, so.
Yeah, oh no, it turned out good. In fact, I kidded him when he came in, I said, nice seeing you again.
Is Leanne
No.
on the committee when issue a thank you letter, or is that the select board?
Oh, she's already, she wanted me to share it with the select board. Yeah, we'll take care of the thank you, she's
Great.
getting communications. And what the meeting, the Brookline Meeting House people wanted to do was to collect the estimates that have been gotten over the past year or more about repairing the bell tower, and ask for vendors to, well, actually, we could do an RFP,
Mhm.
but then she will ask those same vendors who originally sent in an RFP to update theirs, and we'll keep the board informed of what's going on, so this is
Oh,
nothing that's
that's
gonna
nice.
happen now, but we're looking at the spring,
Great.
springtime, so that's that.
That's great.
It is
And-
good news. Yeah.
And then last but not least, in the select board, I received a contract from the Windham County Humane Society that they are willing to serve as our holding facility for stray cats and dogs. And the enclosed contract is here, and the contract amount is $350 flat fee. So I guess I'd like to have a motion, is that all right, we do that, it wasn't on the agenda because, or should we wait till another?
Yeah, I mean,
It's a sign.
we haven't, it's signing an agreement that
Done every year.
and that we've already voted to name them our townkeeper at the first meeting we did in March, so
Right.
signing the contract to execute that, I don't think is something we really need to.
All right, so I am going to sign this contract for the,
Yeah.
because otherwise the dogs are gonna drop off at your house,
Yeah,
your
exactly.
house,
Won't be
instead of
that
bringing it down there. All right,
Nobody wants.
Just kids.
sure. And December 1st, 2021. Done. I'll get this back here.
Might be different.
We talked about the webinar. Okay, town meeting. I am going to reach out, if the select board is okay with it, to David Parker and just confirm that he is interested in being our moderator for a town meeting, if it's in person. If not, maybe being part of the online hearing if we need to do that, but I just thought, while I'm thinking about it, I might as well reach out and do that before the end of the year. Okay, and let's see, community through Vermont, oh, last but not least, I did get a grant agreement emailed to me today from the State of Vermont Agency of Transportation that I signed in October 21. I just received their half back, they dated it November 30th, so I will review over this again, and I did.
Is that the equipment grant?
No, this is the equipment grant we already got.
Right, the 765.
This is looks like it's a Better Back Roads grant.
Oh, okay.
So I'll share, I'll talk it over with Mark, and I did reach out to Archie Clark via phone, left a message that we were inviting him to the December 8th meeting, but if he has a time to meet with Mark Bills and myself before next Wednesday, so that we can have an understanding, maybe some of these changes, like I said, the insurance liability has been shifted to the proper account, and there may be some other things that mandated repairs and such that we need to have a better handle on that, instead of just having the same budget without any upgrades. So I reached out to him as well. And I think that's it for, let me see, state of Vermont. That's it for my report. I'm sorry, we're going a little fast tonight. Nothing wrong with that?
We're
Okay.
about to-
We're not-
The Town Building Commission, Bruce, you're next.
Things are about to slow down.
Okay, go ahead, Bruce.
Dave, I had a question for you. Do you remember last year when we did the wood chips over there with Olivia was present? Do you remember that? Do you remember the conversation we had? You kind of turned and said, do you hear what you said? It had something to do with negotiation of the wood chips. Do you remember anything about that?
I remember that I think we kind of settled on the idea that we would pay, we were gonna pay for the wood chips that were gonna go on the town
But she did
equipment,
something.
but they were going to pay for, but although in the end, I don't know that we ever got the wood chips, but they were gonna go on although no, we did this later.
Yeah.
They were gonna pay for the wood chips that went on their equipment, but we were happy to volunteer our time, you and me and Mark and Gary, to help them spread those, but it kind of seemed like that was a fair way to do it, and
Yeah,
she seemed.
I remember her doing something, you were responding to it that you weren't happy with. That's neither here nor there. I was just trying to reflect. No. Okay.
Sorry, I don't remember
Okay.
beyond that.
Okay, there's a bunch of things that happens. The first thing, it really blew me right out of the boat. And I'll just say it, and that's the end of it, and we'll move on to a little bit more details. But what really got me blown out of the boat the last 2-3 weeks was Olivia's emails to me specifically that basically eliminated any trust that she had in me at all. And it really upset me, really came apart. But anyway, I just wanted to say that. And I also wanted to say that anytime that they had emailed me, they had responses very quickly in every single instance. They had a problem, but it's the way they expressed the problem and how they didn't trust the way I was handling it that really frosted my butt. But in saying that, since then, I sent you all the information of what I did. It's well thought out and presented so that you all understand what was going on. And the reason why I did it was so I wouldn't have to explain tonight. Okay, so saying that, I'm changing the way I do things over there. I'm not gonna be so much hands-on with those people there now. Anything that I do, for the most part, unless I have to, is gonna be when they're not in the building. After hours, weekends. I'm talking about going in to inspect things, doing things that are needed to be done unless it's an emergency situation and I have to be involved in it. Okay, I'm saying that, I basically had 1, 2, possibly 3, almost a third plumber involved in this whole mess with the heating system. And then to go fast forward a little bit, I told Dot last night, I had an epiphany about the whole situation. And that epiphany was that I realized in dealing with these plumbers or professional people, technicians, whatever, that they had one thing in mind, was to fix it and leave. And then it occurred to me, see what happened here is we lost Pete Noble. Pete Noble was helping me, doing a wonderful job. I was really happy with what he did, but he didn't want to part with it. So now what we're gonna do. But what I'm driving at is that The system has to be understood by somebody that represents the community. So that we don't trust the plumbers to govern the system. Guess that's the best one, because there's a lot to it. In saying that, at this point in time, you already know this. I went into the school just before I came here, just to see how since Monday, just to see how everything is working. And everything is right the way I thought it would be. The 2 zones that aren't working, everything else is working. They have enough heat to live. It's not the end of the world. I called Coda 2 days ago and told them they responded to me every single freaking time in the same day. They were great that way. They made a couple small errors, but that's the real world. And so I asked Tucker from Coda because I had just started establishing a relationship with him. So I didn't want to like blow him out of the boat. So I said, look, we're gonna be realistic here. I told him what I need to have done, which I put in the letter, I think I put it in, where the 4 zone valves have, I want checked and or replace the zone heads and second transformer and another purge valve. And I explained all this to him several mornings ago. I said, look, you've been great. Appreciate how you responded. But to be honest, we're out of an emergency situation now. I understand where you're at because they're dealing with a lot of emergency situations right now. But I still want to do this work, this work. And he said, fine. He said, I'll make up a work order. I haven't heard from him yet, but I'm going to keep on it to get him in and complete it. Now, that all being said, my motive is to, when that last visit comes in and they do all this, is that we take one final tour around the place. There's underneath the floor in the old building where we clean out all the chairs is the air handling. And I need to understand that. And I don't want to give anybody the feeling that I now have complete control of the understanding of the heating system, because I don't. I know a lot more than I did 3 weeks ago, but I don't. I'm not a technician. But I think I'm in a position now where I can back off, train Mark a bit on stuff that needs to be done in terms of maintenance. And if a problem arises, we should be able to anticipate it. But did I mention anything about the water cycles and stuff in the information that I sent you all? I don't know if I did.
No, but I'm talking about,
Okay, but basically, I believe what has occurred is, well, I'll give you an analogy. My wife's '96 RAV4 classic Toyota. I replaced everything on that car except an alternator. Struts, done, blah, 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 blah. What happens is, in a mechanical situation, if you dealt with any mechanical stuff over a period of time, these things end their wear cycle. And like example, I put in the paper I sent you, when Jeffers replaced his own valve that was in the preschool room 3 years ago. And Pete Noble replaced the one that was hanging up downstairs. But what I'm driving at is that things are happening with that system because of use and age, and you're gonna get things breaking. So my focus is to try to understand the system as best as I can and try to prevent any serious outage and down because of lack of maintenance or not realizing that we should replace the batteries. There's a good simple analogy. There were at least 6 to 8 batteries in the fuse holders, other than the holders of the thermostats that looked like at Halloween. I mean, they were all gray, they were moldy, and nobody had ever looked at them. So whose responsibility is that? So I guess what I'm saying is, it's our responsibility to keep the thing functioning. So with that all being said, I set up an idea of how to maintain it now, just like kind of what we're doing with the water system, so that we don't have this reoccurring all the time. Or if we do have something happen, it's localized, or just one room, or just one thing happen. But I truly feel that once I get this walk around with these people, and another thing I didn't specify, which really fried my butt. You would believe the amount of junction boxes I see around in the heat system around. They're completely wide open with wires hanging.
So those are the things that need to be tightened up and,
Well, I
you know,
don't know, we
those
have to see, that's the
review
whole-
those and,
I gotta
that
look
makes
at them,
sense.
but there's nothing stopping mice from getting in there, but, and there's just, as you walk into, as you crawl into the place where we took the chairs up, there's a mice trap there, so what's that telling you? You know, that was put years ago, so basically, I had a line going on in my house the other night. Governs about 5 or 6 lanes, just go ahead. I still don't know what's going on. When I checked the fuse, hours so later it came back on, hasn't changed yet. And I've seen mice damage, you've seen mice damage, I've seen mice damage in my house. So to leave things wide gaping open like that with wires,
Looking for
no,
traffic.
We're just asking for,
so what I'm trying to do is tighten it up, understand it better, and eliminate these outages that have been occurring. But we're gonna have a pretty good sized bill, but I think when we're done, that we'll have much better control over it. The heating system will be in much better shape than it has been ever.
And had you gotten some information earlier in September when you first started looking for a contractor, you would have had these heating issues resolved before heating season.
Well,
So,
I'm sorry,
you're
I'm cutting
there.
off, I didn't mean to
Yeah,
cut you off.
you're there, we just, it's December,
Well-
it's December, but.
Well, let's just put it this way. I had to change heating contractors. It wasn't working. Olivia, I'm not gonna mix any blows. Olivia knew that. I explained the whole thing to her. This is all not gonna happen anymore. From now on, everything's gonna be done remotely. I have any issues that I need to discuss with anybody with Susie's full opinions, it's gonna be with Susie Quatermush. It's gonna be direct. I have an email, I have a cell phone, I have a phone. I'm not gonna go that approach anymore. I asked Olivia, since I came back from May from the Cape, 4 times for the numbers of the consumption of the gas for that building so that I could switch over to another provider. But in order to do so, I needed not only just to switch it over, I needed somebody to work on it. And I ended up with Coda and Coda. You will kind of know that.
Right.
Something else. But it was I finally gave up. And I was talking to Stephanie about it one day. I said, Stephanie, I really need to make a move here. I need to change over the gas so that I get somebody to work on the system. And she says, I'll get the numbers for you. I had them for me within 24 hours. So, like Dot said, if I had when I wanted to, sometime in the summer, I wanted to schedule having this work done in September. Everything would have been checked out. We had everything running. If anything was failing, we probably would have seen it at that point. No guarantees here. Instead of November 8th, it might have been September 8th. So she kind of tripped me up there. And that didn't help. I'm just looking at my list, but I don't need to go on that. So we got a little bit more work to do and get them to come in. And I'm trying to keep Coda and Coda happy, so I get them all upset by pestering them in 5 minutes because they responded. We had, I believe, 6 calls from them, 6 times that they came. And they didn't get it. They didn't nail it the first time. I don't know if I.
6 calls
From them coming over to the building.
Service
Yeah.
calls.
Yeah, service calls. It was actually Harry Bovac who came in after Coda came in, I believe, excuse me if I don't have my numbers right, but I think the 4th time, and Sean from Coda had analyzed the junction box and the transformer with a test light, and checked everything out, and I thought he had checked everything functioned. Harry Bovac, it didn't work. We still were having problems. Harry Bovac came over. He went through it. He was pulling his hair out. Oh, his hair in lines, for 2 hours. When we got done, he said, so some thermostats weren't working. So I think the transformer's bad. It turns out he was right. And that was 1 2-hour visit. So next time, Chuck, who advised just before Harry came in, to get a plumber in there to start cutting pipes in order to put in relief for getting rid of air in the pipes, which didn't happen. We did something different. It was actually Harry that steered us towards that way. Cause Chuck came in, he said, okay, and he came, and this blown fuse that happened at the intersection, which is all written down. And Chucky took out his test light, and told me how to use.
Well,
I don't know why Sean didn't see it, but he did. Or whatever, it seems to be fixed now, and we're gonna complete the rest of it, and that's it, that's the end of the wall.
thank you for all the work, I know it's a lot of work, and I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
It was,
Especially
it
this
was
time
a
of year.
phenomenal pain in the ass.
I'm sorry you got blamed for things that
Well,
were not your
it
fault.
wouldn't have been
Okay.
that, one more thing, last thing I'm done, it wouldn't have been as bad, if I wasn't treated so poorly by her. And that can go right on the record, and I'll defend it right to the nth degree, because I've got all the emails and the times that I responded. One final lesson, PSSS, or I'm on call 24/7. First thing I do when I get up in the morning, I go in, turn the TV on, watch my junk, and that computer goes on. Google accounts to see if I got any emails from it. I check at least 2 to 3 to 4 times a day. If I happen to be in the room, I check it. So when she did that,
All right,
when she
Yeah, I
did what
think
she
we're
did,
we were.
I just give them apart. You know, I mean, the lack of trust after all the work that I've done in that building blew me out of it. End of story.
Thank you, thanks, Drew. Okay, move on to road supervisor report. Mark,
Okay, basically, like Guy, was talking earlier, we've been spending, much time working with, FEMA representative, and basically Guy and Dot are so good with the technical part and the paperwork, and we've been helping the FEMA guy fill out all the information needed for work that it takes to be able to collect money back. Gone out on the road with Dot and GPS the damaged areas that we received from the flood back July 29. I believe we logged down all of the damages, but there's still areas that will need more repairs, but we've got everything on contract with what's been done and what needs to be done. Still monitoring the roads, moving tree and debris removal, some of the weather. I've met with Basin Brothers, was one of the requests from FEMA to get a professional estimate on the repairs of the damaged pavement on Putnam Mountain from the flood. And met with them, still waiting to receive the numbers from that. This week I had ordered our first load of winter road salt from American Salt Company, and that was delivered this morning. Very prompt and good service. As we talked about it a couple meetings back, getting a supply in of 3/4 inch crushed stone to be able to manage the mud seasons that arise, whether being an early February thaw or spring. We now have a stockpile, and I covered that with a tarp today to hopefully keep future moisture out of there so that when we need it, it'll be manageable. And I continue with general maintenance around town on the list of small jobs. I've started cleaning up around the recycle bins whenever I see need be. And with the weather changing and the temperature changing in the daylight hours, it's kind of changing the job. But we're working with it. You know, I've got stuff I'm doing with for Bruce and with the weather temperatures, it's kind of held me back in between my other maintenance and other jobs. And so basically, we're just getting ready to go into the winter months, and I believe we're ready.
I'll have to add to Mark's report, he really is a treasure trove of knowledge about our roads. I've spent 70 hours driving around with you the past couple of weeks, GPSing the road damage and learning about the different road builder and ditch stone and 3/4 inch gravel and culverts and plastic
It's
line and clear
fantastic
coats.
when Dad's not available.
Yeah,
I'm gonna,
highway queen.
And
She can flag wave and stuff.
She's very knowledgeable. I've enjoyed riding the roads with Doc.
yeah, no, it's amazing.
Yeah.
She
And
was-
I never was, not yesterday, we went to Holland Hill and Purple Mountain Road. I've never been out there, but I got to see where the pictures
Yeah.
and then got to see the areas
The
themselves,
far
so.
end of
That's right.
the
Way out there,
Bennett
ain't it?
Road,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
something, you know, that we rarely once or twice a year
Yeah.
go there and but where we did repairs, we went over and GPS all the repairs and Dot wrote the numbers down and made notes of everything that I verbally put out there for repairs and making some great.
So did you go in one of your trucks or God's pony
Yes.
car?
No, I supplied
Pony car.
the vehicle,
The horse buggy.
yeah.
Buddy took them all around.
Yeah.
But I really do enjoy being able to tell somebody, you know, see that there or that there, this is what
Yeah,
I
no.
wanna do sometime and.
And so, when we talked about some of the future jobs, like Better Back Roads area, we saw a grant, like turnaround by the Putney turnaround, that he wanted to move the culvert 20 feet up and change the
Yeah.
angle, and he stood next to the debris that washed out the outlet. It's almost as tall as a man, so I mean, this is where the debris gets moved and then, so I think
Yeah.
it's important and yeah. it's
Yeah,
all
Doc's
learning.
been great,
Like,
also.
it's like your heating system, for
Yeah,
learning the roads.
and like Dave.
I'd love to see you behind a bulldozer.
Dave was very helpful in helping with some of these Better Back Road grants
Yeah.
and mitigation grants and Dot as well, and so. When we're out there, we know that each year we have new grant availabilities coming on and Dot took some of the. I pointed out, you know, this might be a good spot for the
Right.
next Better Back Road grant, so she took some pictures and.
Yeah, so I'll write the jazz.
Just don't have her back up.
You know, what we haven't mentioned is, what we haven't mentioned is the money that's coming from the infrastructure.
She knows, cause I'm just as bad as she is.
When she's running the grader, she can just go forward.
Yeah, no way.
People get out of your way.
I used to drive a big school bus, you know that, right? So-
Yeah, it's the same color.
Yeah, basically.
Doesn't hold as many passengers, but.
No.
basically.
Dot, if I had to back up anything, get out of my way, because I am awful.
Move the house.
Yeah.
No,
It
but
does.
we've been
That's right.
moving along, so
No,
that's
that's
good. We're really comfortable with that, so I guess I'm here for the long run.
That's a bright.
Was this supposed to be on the end of your truck?
Yeah, I appreciate you know that
That day, one day, they actually showed me a piece.
When we get it all done, we'll share it with the select board, but it's in a format that
Right.
you can save. All right, any other selectmen like to make a report or have a comment or a concern they'd like to share tonight
No,
before
I
we move on?
Just a point I made a minute ago, we haven't even mentioned it, and that's the fact that we're gonna get money from the infrastructure bill. that,
Yes.
you know, And we're not hear that the state's got $2 billion.
2 billion, as in B.
I have two things. I
Okay,
wanted to
David.
mention. One is that the other day I got confirmation from Alan May, and I actually got something from somebody else at V-Trans, which I signed and sent back an amendment to the grant, that we did all the paperwork that we sent. I had to send them a few additional things after the fact, but all that stuff got approved for the Parker Road grant, and I gave all of it to Judy and gave her the heads up that we should be getting paid sometime in the next couple of weeks for
Well,
that.
I greatly appreciate all the effort you put into that.
Sure, well, you made it easy to do, because you had kept track of everything and gotten it, so that was great. And the other thing is we did submit and we got confirmation that our application was received from V-Trans for this transportation alternatives grant for additional supplemental funding, hopefully for the salt sand shed. The one thing that's a little tricky about that one is they say right off the bat that they won't be letting people know about awards until February or March of next year.
Yeah,
So it's a little bit longer period, but
Yeah, that's great that that's available.
and we're just waiting, at this point, I think there's just a few more pieces that Ron Bell has to wrap up so that we can, as far as I'm aware, we're still on track to hopefully be able to put out an RFP in January, maybe.
Has a design been formalized? Now, is it all finished, the design?
Yeah, that was finalized a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you had to change if you had to, downsize it at all.
No, I mean, because I mean, that was
Good.
never really an option.
Oh, okay. Good.
Because it was already
Yep.
pretty much the smallest thing we could have done, I think.
Yeah, Archie had done,
So our only choice really was to either decide not to do it and give all the federal money back, or come up with all of the additional money ourselves and continue to do it, I guess. Or those were pretty much our two choices. Or try to get supplemental funding, which we've luckily gotten some and hopefully we'll get. If we get this transportation alternatives grant, then based on the estimates, assuming that things work out to be like they're estimated, we should, between that and our match, we should have enough money to do it.
well, my question is, what is our match? And is that something that? we
That's
can
gonna
put in our
increase.
Highway budget for next year or over 2 or 3 years?
Well, I mean,
How do we budget that?
I mean, I guess I'll remind people, this is a process that started 5 years ago.
Right.
We
Yeah.
never budgeted for any of it before.
Okay, so we should
Um,
start, that we might.
Well, now our match is probably going to be,
50,000?
no, it's gonna be more than that. I mean, from the very beginning,
We were
when you
47.
guys did the grant application.
Yeah, it was 47,
It
I
was
think.
47, something like that.
Yep.
Since then, we're into it for another, I think our match from the first grant is something like $24,000. And then if we get this subsequent one, our match for that will be something like another $9,000.
So we're another $20,000.
So we're probably up to $80,000 in what we have to come up with now.
That's what you said.
Ultimately, assuming that the costs end up being what they're supposed to be. So,
Now, like you said.
I mean, again, like we talked about, and I think I brought this up, as we go through the highway budget, another thing we have to figure out, where this money is going to come from.
Mhm.
Well, we need to get totals. You need to get totals of what has been in the highway budget that's been rolling over.
Exactly, right, we need to know a lot of.
Yeah.
We need to know a lot of treasury related things around that budget. And what we have in the accounts, and we need to factor that into our thinking along with whatever else we've got going. And it is true, we may
Get a gift.
decide that it makes, and also whether there, how much of what we have in our highway budget now might possibly be eligible for some of the ARPA things.
Yeah,
So
we can get that
whether
money moving.
Whether some of that money could be used elsewhere, I don't know. There's a lot of things we have to figure out, but
Unknowns.
Highway's not really what we would call a dedicated fund, we can move that money around.
Some funds are dedicated.
Some funds are,
Like
some
paving.
parts of it are dedicated, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I will, whatever, this isn't on the agenda, so we're not gonna, but I guess I'd just throw out there at some point, we also need to really figure out the treasurer situation, because
Oh, yeah.
we're, of course, gonna continue to bump up against things that without a treasurer who really understands our accounts, it's gonna be a lot harder to figure this stuff out.
I agree.
Dave, one thing there, you mentioned this started like 5 years ago, there was a 5-year deadline. And then it got fell with the COVID, and so have you heard of any?
Well, so I talked to Chris Hunt, who's our V-Trans project manager on the original grant, and probably will be on these other things since it's the same project. And yes, he basically said that once, as long as we continue to actually make progress, though we might not be complete with the work on it by June 30th, they automatically, as soon as work commences, something essentially happens that gives more time to be able to complete it. So nobody seems to be concerned about that at this point.
Good.
As long as we do move forward with it next year. If something were to happen that put us in a situation where we were not going to be able to do it until the following year, then I have no idea what might happen. That's something we'd have to delve into, but at the moment, there doesn't seem to be any concerns about having it all be satisfied, even if it doesn't finish until after June 30th. Because technically the grant award does end June 30th of 2022. But that doesn't seem to be a concern at the moment.
Okay. Great, anybody, thank you, David.
Sure.
Anybody else? I have one more thing, when David mentioned the ARPA money, I was at a webinar today through VLTC, which was about the CUDs, or in our case, it's the DV fiber network, which is the CUD. And they are talking about that they may be needing to request a letter of credit. We may be receiving at some point when they're ready to do the Brookline upgrading, request for a letter of credit against our ARPA funding that would support the CUD going to the bond market to provide the funding to do the physical building of the fiber optic networks when they subcontracted. So an interesting webinar that will be up on the VLTC website in the next couple of days. You can watch it at your leisure, but it was, what was the lady's name? Trudy.
I know.
Tracy
Buckley,
Buckley, this
Katie Buckley.
Katie Buckley, she was very good, and there were three CUD people that presented. And I did ask a question, and it was at the end of the meeting, and you can type in a question, and it was one which they said was the best question of the night. And that was, how do we determine what percentage of ARPA monies any particular town might want to dedicate towards this particular project?
Right.
And it depends upon, and their answer, all of them was, well, we think that the optic fiber infrastructure is the most important, but of course it depends upon the town and what their feelings are, and that's when maybe we gotta get the planning commission in and survey our town people and find out, how do they want this money to be distributed. There's no rush on it right now, but it is something that if we start getting these letters in, we're gonna, just be aware of it. So again, the webinars are interesting, a little bit.
Although by their own estimation, right, we're still
Phase
years
2.
away from
Correct,
them even considering doing
right,
anything.
but they might say,
Maybe there'll be more lead time for when they want to
yes,
put the money aside.
Right. So it was just an interesting thing that I didn't think of before. All right, any other before we move on? All right, the communications, I think I already did the regular mail, which was the contract and the letter from Cutler and the additional email from the additional appropriations request. And the email was from the governor about the masking mandate, the jurisdiction that we needed to do. If not, we're gonna move on to pay orders and accounts payable warrants. Passes are happy to take a look at. We've already had the printout of them. I guess it would be easy enough if I take a look at the payroll. I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead and sign.
Yeah, you can sign if you want. I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the payroll number 2022-21 dated November 24th, 2021 in the amount of $4,976.50. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stan. Any discussion?
Hang on a second, sorry, sorry, I guess this is discussion.
Yeah, this was already paid, people already got it paid, sent to their pay accounts already on the daily payroll, yes,
This is from the 24th,
correct.
and the amount is what again?
$4,976.50.
Okay. Not that one.
This is
Okay,
payroll, okay?
was it amended? Just the one that I see that
Oh,
was sent around
sorry,
was a different amount,
It's a different, it's 170, what am I seeing?
4,174.76.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
why I
I'm
was gonna
sorry,
say,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, I wrote my
Oh,
handwriting.
wait, sorry, that is the one you're signing.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's, excuse me, the amount is different, I'm sorry, checking, payroll warrant 2022, the discussion is $4,174.76.
Okay, so 4,174.76.
Correct,
And you're amending your motion?
yes, I'm amending it because I was
It's-
reading you the amount for gross.
Second.
Seconded as the amendment was, okay.
that's why you saw the look on my face.
I'm just looking at data, I'm like, oh, this is what
Well, no, I was just looking for one.
my mistake, I pulled the numbers here.
Never make a mistake.
Yeah, it keeps me honest. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. All right, all those, we'll do the vote next. All those in favor of approving payroll warrant 2022-21 dated November 24th, 2021 in the amount of $4,174.76, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, sorry about that, I was reading the gross line. All right, the next one is I'd like to make a motion to approve the accounts payable warrant 2022-22 dated December 1st, 2021 in the amount of $5,636.66. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by David. Any discussion? My only question is, under A.S. Clark and Sons, it says services instead of material or, is it in this one?
It's in the invoice,
David, could you grab that yellow folder just a second? I
it should be right on the top.
looked at it
Yeah.
and I don't see, it says services and basically it is material. It's, oh, they use item code service, but it's actually material. So I am going to circle the word service.
Yeah, they
and-
was coded
and
wrong?
to say material, because it's just not the same thing. All right, so I've got a motion, we had it seconded, that was my discussion. All those in favor of approving accounts payable warrant 2022-22 dated December 1st, 2021 in the amount of $5,636.66, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, well, thank you, the motion has passed. So just make sure we get a signature, pass this back to David.
Sorry, could you clarify, since I think I have the list, who moved to amend and seconded?
Let's move to amend the warrant. No, David.
David did, yeah.
David moved to amend.
Well, no, I mean, she amended her own motion. Dot amended her own motion and it was a friendly amendment and the seconder was fine with it, so it didn't really change who moved or amended it.
Thank you.
Moved or seconded, I think.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I was just- Okay, so, all right, let's move on, the special budget meeting number 2 on December 8th, 2021 will be held here at Town Hall, starting at 6:30, to discuss highway funding. Is there anything else that we should bring to the meeting of that, or just worry about the highway funding?
I would worry about the highway.
I would, yeah.
Okay, let's keep it
I would
at highway
just,
funding.
yeah, but I mean, I guess I'd suggest that the agenda just say budget discussion, so it leaves us open to be able to discuss some
If we have.
non-highway stuff. If we
All right,
want to.
perfect, thank you.
Good
Okay, very good, I'll change that on the agenda when I type it up for budget discussion. All right, set the agenda for the regular select board meeting on December 15th. We will have a lease review. We can have a discussion on salaries. We can have a discussion on the recycling. We have to get that information. I will have talked to Mr. Parker about town meeting. Okay, and, okay, so,
A letter from the Vermont water quality test, the coliform test that we got.
The quarterly
uh,
report was not submitted, and I forwarded it to you. I don't know if Nancy has done that recently.
no, I saw it, it was absent of any call farm or any problems, but.
No, there was I just sent an email around from the water quality people saying that there's a quarterly report that has to be submitted. And it hadn't been submitted yet. I sent it, I didn't get the email until 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Oh, I didn't see that.
So I also carbon copied Nancy to see if she had any idea. So hopefully we can clear it up so we don't get penalized or.
Yeah, it looks like they're giving the 31st of this month to send the coliform results, and if that
Yeah.
is what she did in that thing that we got 2 weeks ago.
Right, yeah.
Then we're all set, but they also asked a question and wanted us to respond about whether or not this was whether the public had access to the water. I'm
Well,
not
that
sure
is
whether
considered the public,
Yeah.
tenant
is public.
is public,
Yes,
that's what I
right.
thought.
Yeah,
But they're looking for a response to verify whether it is or it isn't, which I would assume you already have in record. right?
I would think so, but that's why I carbon copied Nancy to see if she could add anything.
Respond to that too.
Right, I don't know whether she, is that what she does for us?
I haven't seen this letter, you said send it at 4 o'clock, so I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't get it till.
But I'll take a look at it, and if it needs to come back, I'll add it to water testing. Okay, so at this point, we are back to where I tabled the executive session. So I'd like to make a motion at this time to find that premature general public knowledge regarding the town's lease contract with Susie's Little Peanuts owner, Susie Quackermarsh, would place the town at a disadvantage because the select board risks disclosing its negotiation strategy if it discusses the proposed contract in public. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, second by Stan Noga. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in agreement that the premature general knowledge regarding the town's lease contract with owner Susie Quackermarsh would place the town at a disadvantage because the select board is disclosing its negotiating strategy as it discusses the proposed contract in public, signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Of course, I went to the LTC, not the word. Okay, a second motion, I'd like to make a second motion to be made this time to enter into an executive session to discuss the town's lease contract with Susie Quackermarsh under the provisions of Title I, Sections 212, A1A of the Vermont statutes. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stan. Any discussion? Hearing none, the motion, none. All those in favor of approving the second motion to enter into executive session to discuss the lease contract signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. There will be no vote taken at this meeting tonight. When we return from executive session, we will be adjourning the meeting. So at this time,
Recording,
So we're gonna
stop
going
recording.
into executive
We're gonna
session
go
at
into-
8:22.
oh, thank you, 8:22 PM, we're gonna go into executive session. Peter, there's nothing much else other than this, I can let you know what time we're done with the executive session and I'll email you tomorrow. Okay,
Thanks. Yeah.
all right,
Put
Thanks, Peter.
fact TV into the waiting room.
all right, we're gonna move Fact TV into the waiting room. Peter, I'm gonna let you go and.
Stop
Bye.
recording.
Bye, Peter, thank you.
Aye.
Let's stop. Pause.
Recording stopped.
And then Fact TV.
Into the waiting room.
Going to put in the waiting.
Recording in progress.
Did you bring fact TV in?
Yes, she did.
We are back out of executive session. The time is 8:56 PM. Write that down, 8:56. At this time, I am going to make a motion that we adjourn the.
Can you just clarify that
Yes.
there were no votes?
No votes and no
taken,
actions were taken
actions were taken.
In our executive session, absolutely. So I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this evening's meeting. We have a second from Bruce. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning this evening's meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned at 8:57. Thank you.
Recording stopped.